So, what if the most detailed account of an alien abduction ever put to paper wasn't science fiction at all, but a factual report? Today, we're going to dive into Thiaoouba Prophecy, a book by Michel Desmarquet that claims to be exactly that. It's a true story that has, for decades, absolutely fascinated and, let's be honest, puzzled a lot of readers.
Right from the very first page, this book sets an incredibly high bar. It doesn't just ask you to believe what you're about to read. No, it challenges you to know it. This isn't positioned as some casual story. It's presented as critical, essential information for all of humanity. And the author, Michel Desmarquet, he's crystal clear about this in his preface, basically doubling down on the whole thing. He insists this is a factual report of things that happened to him, personally, not something he cooked up in his imagination. So for this explainer, let's just take him at his word and explore the story exactly as he tells it.
Okay, so our story kicks off on what seemed like a totally normal night in northeastern Australia, way back in June of 1987. Our protagonist, Michel, is at home, probably asleep, and his night is about to take a hard right turn into the truly extraordinary.
The sequence of events he describes is just bizarre and incredibly specific. Michel says he wakes up at exactly 12:30 a.m. He gets dressed, but it feels like he's being compelled by some outside force. He then writes a note for his wife that says, "I'll be away for about 10 days." I mean, can you imagine? Just minutes later, he's out in his garden being lifted into this bluish light, and that's where he meets his guide, Bao. So the first thing Thal explains is a real mind-bender. She tells him they aren't actually in outer space yet. They're in a parallel universe, which acts as a kind of cosmic airlock. She claims this is the real secret behind things like the Bermuda Triangle, places where people and objects get accidentally pulled into this warp where time is totally suspended, nothing decays, you can't even feel pain. And his guide, Thao, her physical presence alone is just astounding. She's described as being 290 centimeters tall. That is nearly 9.5 feet. Just try to picture that for a second. And yet she explains this is a perfectly normal height on her home planet. Her vibe is described as super friendly and intelligent, which, immediately puts Michel at ease, even though he's in the middle of the weirdest situation imaginable. So after this initial orientation, they leave the parallel universe. Michel is then brought aboard this massive 70-meter spherical spacecraft. He says it just shimmers with this bluish aura. And get this, there are no visible doors, no windows, nothing. Just a perfectly smooth, seamless surface. Now, boarding this ship isn't a simple affair. It involves this really intense decontamination process. Thao explains that this is absolutely critical because bacteria from Earth are apparently extremely dangerous to her people. The whole process uses colored vibrations, a special air current, and then, finally, Michel has to take 2 pills to finish purifying his body from the inside out. And those pills have a very, very unusual side effect. They cause Michel's astral body to completely separate from his physical one. Thao assures him, hey, don't worry, this is perfectly safe. It's actually a practical move. It allows his consciousness to go tour the ship while his physical body is getting cleansed, which saves a ton of time and, of course, gets rid of any risk of contamination. The ship's first stop is a planet called Aremo X3. And wow, it's a sobering cautionary sight. This world literally destroyed itself in a nuclear war about 150 years ago. The crew's mission there is to study the long-term effects of radiation. What they find is just a total wasteland, populated by giant mutant insects and the descendants of the survivors, who are all suffering from these horrific deformations. Now, during this mission, Michel is looking at the crew and he notices they all seem to be female. But Thao clarifies something pretty fundamental about her species. She explains that they aren't male or female. Her people are actually a race of hermaphrodites. Okay, so this whole journey isn't just about visiting other planets. Theo now starts to reveal the main reason for Michel's trip. He's there to learn the true, totally forgotten history of humanity on our very own planet, Earth. Thao kicks things off with a foundational claim that challenges, well, pretty much everything we know about our origins. She tells Michel that the very first advanced human civilizations on Earth were founded by 2 different groups, a black race and a yellow race, who migrated here from another star system. According to Thao's story, this all happened 1.35 million years ago. These 2 races were fleeing their dying planet, which was called Bakarati, and over about 50 years, they managed to transport millions of their people to Earth. The black race settled in Australia, and the yellow race set up shop in what is now Burma. And the civilization they built was, incredibly advanced. Back then, Earth's axis was different, so places like Antarctica were actually temperate and green. The two races lived together peacefully. They brought familiar animals from their home world, like the kangaroo. They traveled around in anti-gravity vehicles, and they built a society so disciplined that crime was almost non-existent.
But for all their amazing technological and social progress, Fao introduces a critical concept they apparently overlooked, something she calls universal law. She says that the main reason for physical existence on any planet is to develop one's spirituality. And it's because this law was forgotten, she explains, that things were about to go catastrophically wrong. Their peaceful, technologically advanced global civilization was about to be completely erased from history by a cosmic event of just unimaginable scale. It really makes you think, doesn't it? They had solved major societal problems, they had technology we can only dream of, they lived in total harmony. What could possibly threaten a utopia like that? Well, the answer came from the sky. Their astronomers detected a massive asteroid, and it was on a direct collision course with Earth. As it ripped through the atmosphere, the asteroid broke apart into 3 enormous pieces, which then slammed into the planet in 3 different locations, all at the same time. The force of those simultaneous impacts was so immense that it triggered the most cataclysmic consequence imaginable. The entire planet was literally knocked off its rotational axis. The aftermath was pure apocalypse. Volcanoes erupted all over the globe. Tidal waves taller than modern skyscrapers scoured the continents. The landmasses themselves actually shifted. Some sank, others rose from the sea. The whole civilization was completely wiped out, its cities buried. The few survivors were thrown back to a primitive state, facing starvation, radiation, and just utter despair. And this lost history, that is the entire reason for Michel's journey. He was brought to Thiaoouba's home, the 9th and most spiritually advanced planet in our system, a planet named Thiaoouba, so he could receive this account and deliver its message back to a humanity that has completely forgotten where it came from. So this book presents this epic, incredibly detailed history, not as fiction, but as fact. It claims to explain lost continents, ancient mysteries, the origins of our entire species, all wrapped up in this framework of spiritual development and universal law. The question the book really leaves you with is a powerful one. If this isn't just a story, what does that mean for our understanding of our past, our purpose, and our entire future?